Yo, what is up guys? It's the Goblin and welcome back to another Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War video. In tonight's video, we're going to be talking about the patch that went live earlier today into Cold War, which is the 1.06 patch update. And this brings in some weapon changes as well as tweaking the values of different score streaks and a bunch of different patch notes that I'm going to go through here and read out and talk about the important stuff as far as like gun changes, changes to score streaks, the stuff that's going to directly affect your gameplay. Talk about it, give you guys the patch notes as well as my opinions on it. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this video. If you could drop a like on this thing, that'd be absolutely incredible. Let's go ahead and go for 318 likes. If we could hit that, that would be amazing. Also subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and not already subscribed. I would really appreciate that. I'm going to be covering everything you guys need to know about Cold War, all the class setups of really important weapons, tips and tricks, as well as news and updates. So let's go ahead and get right into this and talk about these weapon changes. Now, this patch update did come out earlier today in the morning, and then they released the patch notes like in the afternoon. So this is the changes that we have, starting with the assault rifle, the FFAR-1. Increased recoil, slightly reduced max damage range, or not max damage range, slightly reduced max damage by 3.5%, 28 to 27, and then they reduced the max damage range by 34%, 38 meters to 25 meters. So pretty interesting stuff here on the FFAR. I think the increased recoil is definitely the biggest thing that's going to affect this weapon. Reducing the max damage range, I mean, that is a huge reduction, 34%, but this was already a weapon that you're not supposed to really use at range, although that, 34% reduction that's not long range that's hitting. That is affecting the mid-range, and I called this weapon the mid-range monster, so definitely gonna have to play with this and see how these nerfs affect the FFAR, which I thought this was an absolutely deadly weapon in this game because of the ability to, have those gunfights at mid-range and dominate, but still have the ability to beat some of those SMGs up close if you get that first shot, or you can, jump shot or strafe and win those gunfights. So it's gonna be interesting to see if this weapon is sort of like Black Ops 1. It reminds me of Black Ops 1, where the FAMAS was just an absolute laser beam, and then they increased the recoil on it, and it was still a good weapon, but it absolutely had crazy kicks. So I don't know if I'm excited because I kind of liked this weapon before, but it was overpowered. I'm interested to test this one out and see how these changes affect it. Next, for submachine guns, Submachine Gun Alpha, which I don't know why, like, I talk about this all the time. Why do they write the patch notes so freaking weird? It's like they make the game to make the game so simple and easy so people can understand it, but then when they write stuff in the class setups and the patch notes, their wording is just dumb. Submachine Gun Alpha, that's the MP5. I guess Alpha means the first one. I mean, it's just write MP5. How hard is it to write MP5? Who knows? But for Submachine Gun Alpha, here we go. I'm gonna give you guys the freaking patch notes for Submachine Gun Alpha. Reduced base effective damage range by 33%. 15.24 meters to 10.16 meters, added more character to initial recoil by tweaking several bullet trajectories. While this doesn't affect the vertical/horizontal control stats in Gunsmith, this change makes it more difficult to stay on target by adjusting the trajectories of several bullets in the initial firing experience. And it says that these changes, this basically came out like a little while ago. I think it was like a day or two in a hotfix, and they were unintentionally reverted in today's update. So it went back to how it was before. But then, of course, they quickly fixed that up in a couple hours after that, and the MP5's nerf was reapplied at around like 6 p.m. or something like that, or maybe 5 p.m. today. So it took them a little bit, but who knows what that was, a glitch or whatever that was. But basically, the MP5 receives a pretty significant nerf right here. Reducing the effective damage range, I think, is, hitting the damage range for 33%, like they hit the max damage range of the FFAR for 34%. This does affect stuff, and that's really what the balance they're trying to go for in this game, is making the close range weapons absolute monsters up close, and then making them pretty irrelevant at mid to long ranges. So interesting changes there for the MP5, and I think that the MP5 and FFAR, as long as, like, those were two of my favorite guns in the game, but I would be lying to you if I didn't say that they weren't like super strong, and they did deserve a nerf. I'm not sure if this nerf is overkill or not, but we're gonna have to test out and see. Next is for tactical rifles, the M16. With the M16, they reduced the max damage range by 15%, 24 meters to 21.5 meters. They increased the sprint to fire time. They slightly slowed move speed while firing, slightly increased delay between burst, rebalanced fire rate bonuses on barrel attachments, and slightly reduced effectiveness of laser attachments. So quite a few nerfs to the M16 right there. Interesting stuff. I thought the M16 was strong, but not as strong as the AUG. So that's pretty interesting to me. But then they also nerfed the Tactical Rifle Charlie, which, once again, what the fuck is a Tactical Rifle Charlie? What are we talking about here, people? I'm assuming that's just the AUG, right? Reduced max damage range by 20%, 38.1 meters to 30.48 meters. Increased sprint to fire time. Slightly slowed move speed while firing. Slightly increased delay between bursts. Rebalanced fire rate bonuses on barrel attachments, and slightly reduced effectiveness of laser attachments. So they're really just admitting their faults, I think, here on these two burst weapons, and really adding a bunch of nerfs here because those weapons were just really, really strong. And interesting stuff. And once again, you know, these are just writing on a page, or words on a page. Gonna have to test and play this weekend quite a bit with all these weapons once again and see how the rebalance is. And I'll probably be making like a top 5 weapons after the patch or something like that for you guys to see how these weapons are rebalanced and what is still the best stuff, you know. Next is the Type 63, slightly increased fire rate, rebalanced fire rate bonuses on barrel attachments. The DMR-14, slightly increased fire rate, rebalanced fire rate bonuses on barrel attachments. The LMG M60, improved max damage ranges and improved movement speed. And for all the sniper rifles, they adjusted sprint to fire times to account for early blend / interruption allowed via animation system. The effective sprint to fire time is notably shorter than what is displayed in Gunsmith. We have plans to address the Gunsmith readout in a future update. Adjust move out speed impact when firing to intended values to make each shot feel more powerful. Fine-tuned barrel attachments that improve idle sway to provide a unique feel on each gun. So basically some little tweaks there to the sniper rifles. I know snipers were, it's interesting because sniping in this game, it's like the aim assist is pretty strong, but the scope speed and like everything around that was pretty bad for snipers. So I'm not sure if this will really change that, and we're gonna have to wait and see. A lot of just balance changes that, you know, when you read it out, you don't really know how it's actually going to affect gameplay. It takes some time to just play with it and test it out and stuff like that. Pistols for the Magnum, slightly improved fire rate, improved max damage range, improved visibility when firing after the first shot. So I guess pretty good stuff for the Magnum there, but personally I stay with the shotguns. And speaking of shotgun Bravo, slightly reduced damage between ranges from 5.8 meters to 7.7 meters. So yeah, both the shotguns are honestly really, really strong. Shotgun Bravo is probably, I mean, that's the one that I rock with. Pretty strong stuff, but they reduced the damage ranges on that. Next, we have a few changes here as far as game modes, what they did. I'll just show that stuff up on the screen. Don't really want to read all that stuff out. I don't know if it's anything too important, but that's some game mode changes. Next is with the score streaks, and that's really what I want to talk about pretty much is the score streaks, and that's most of the other stuff is just bug fixes and all that, which I will leave the link down to the description to the full patch notes because there is like a bunch of bug fixes and different like UI changes and, you know, stuff like that, and also some zombies, like quite a few patch notes for zombies and global bug fixes, you know, stability settings changes. So I'll leave the full patch note link in the description if you want to check that out. But let's go through these score streaks because this stuff is something that I think is important, and they changed a lot of the values here. So the combat bow reduced the ammo from 5 to 4. Okay. Care package increased the cost from 1,800 to 2,000. Sentry turret reduced cost from 2,000 to 1,800. That's interesting because I already thought the Sentry was pretty good, so moving that down 200 points makes it pretty strong. Napalm Strike increased cost from 2,100 to 2,500. Air Patrol reduced cost from 3,200 to 2,700. Another good thing, Air Patrol is pretty good, especially if you run into like some tryhards and you know they're gonna get helicopters, or even if you're not playing tryhards, because the way the kill streak system works in this game, a lot of people can get like the helicopter right towards the end of the game, call that in, or even like a chopper gunner, and just you can't leave your spawn, and they just end up winning the game in the last few seconds based on a score streak that doesn't reset on death. So Air Patrol is nice to be able to counter that sort of stuff, and reducing it by 500 points is pretty significant. Artillery increased cost from 2,500 to 3,000. Cruise Missile increased cost from 2,600 to 3,500. So wow, they basically 900 points to increase on the Cruise Missile, which I thought that was a really, really fun kill streak to use, but who knows now how good it's going to be with the 900 point increase. War Machine increased cost from 3,500 to 4,000. War Machine is the one that pretty much all tryhards are going with because of the fact that it's just really fun to use. It's pretty good, especially when you have the enemies, like you're in a power position, you can just shoot them in their spawn or shoot them into tight areas that they're in and get some kills or some double kills. And also because the kills would count towards your nuclear. But increasing the cost from 3,500 to 4K, I think people are still going to be using the War Machine. We'll have to wait and see. And the helicopter, they also increased the attack helicopter from 4,000 to 4,500, but they gave a little bit of buffs to it as well. They increased the damage from 50 to 75 per bullet. They increased the health from 4,500 to 5,000, decreased the duration of the screen shake from bullet impacts, reduced the amount of time the helicopter will stay in one place before relocating. So interesting changes and tweaks there to the helicopter. VTOL escort reduced the cost from 8,500 to 8,000, increased turret burst length and reduced cooldown time. The chopper gunner increased from 6,000 to 6,500 and reduced the movement on the gun when firing. So that's what we have as far as the gun changes and score streak changes. I know it's quite a lot of stuff, and usually this happens after a game comes out. They let the game play. It's been like a week, and then they add all these changes in. So this is going to be interesting. I'm excited to play this weekend, see how all this stuff feels, and see if there is like a lot, if this really does affect the balancing. And you know, some weapons that we weren't talking about are now moving up in the tier list, and some of these weapons that we were talking about all the time have become like, you know, a lot worse because of these nerfs. Usually when they nerf stuff, the weapons are still pretty strong, but we're gonna have to wait and see. And a lot of just changes overall to this game so far. So pretty decent patch notes, I'd say, so far. Nothing that stands out here as like, oh, why did they do that? You know, most of the stuff is pretty standard. But yeah, that's about it. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Full patch notes will be in the description. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and I'll catch you in the next one. And I'm out. Peace.